Aloha everyone, Maverick Mike here. Ikoma Mai, come on in. As you can see, I have a brand new ONEFINITY X35 here. But before I take this thing out of the box and put it together, I'm going to provide for the mounting solutions. Two solutions, one on my workbench and one in a torsion box that we're going to build. So, I'm going to take care of the mounting solutions first, then come back and put this thing together. Alright, cutting up the inner bracing to the correct length. One of the reasons I purchased this saw is because it would accept a dado stack. So I went ahead and set up my dado stack, 3/4 of an inch cut. And I went ahead and made this jig out of some spare lumber I have laying around, so that I can go ahead and make crossing half lap joints using this. So let's go ahead and do some cuts. Alright, I've got all my cross pieces cut and I've been assembling it. Let's go ahead and finish up the dry assembly, see how everything fits together. And if we're reasonably happy with that. Okay, not too bad. Maybe just a little bit of sanding where there's some variations in the height. And also I went ahead and I doubled up on the edges. I just felt like one was not enough, so I put 2 3/4 inch strips of MDF in here. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we're going to move forward with this. We're going to go ahead, clean things up, and glue it all together. That was very smart. Not. Alright, it's the next day. The glue seems to have dried. I'm going to go ahead and scrape these high points off of glue. And then I'm going to go ahead and, with my DA sander, just remove the high points so that the top fits flat on here. Alright, I've placed my grid mark on here, and we're ready to go ahead and do this glue up. You guys will have a giggle out of this. For mounting solutions, I'm going to use one of my old service trucks. This is a truck I used to drive around and had a mobile auto repair business in. And as you can see, I've raised the ground level up to the back of the truck where I can just walk into it now. But I'm going to be mounting my CNC machine in here because it's the only place that I have that's protected. I was not able to work for the last several days because we've had a storm come through, and my work area is not protected from rain that comes in sideways. So anyway, this is where the CNC machine is going to live. And you guys will get a giggle out of this. So about a year ago, I had an exercise machine in the house that became nothing but a towel rack, and I know you guys can relate to that, right? Anyway, I took that thing apart, and I kept the base and a few of the other metal pieces that were quite well made. And so what I've done is recycled this, repurposed this, and used the base of this exercise machine, right here, to support my CNC machine. And what's nice about this thing is that it actually has some wheels built into the front. You can see it there on the front. And each one of these corners has a very solid rubber foot. So I was able to get this thing square and where it wouldn't rock. It's one of those rubber feet down there. To support the CNC machine, I went ahead and used 4x4s for the uprights. And I drilled a 3/4 inch hole into each one of them and put in a 1 foot long by 3/4 inch diameter all thread in each of the posts so that I could adjust this up and down each corner so that I could go ahead and level this, because this is in a old service truck. It is not on level ground to begin with, and the floor is not level. So in order to get this thing nice and square, I made it adjustable on each corner. And then I went ahead and leveled it out, and it's plumb. Each table is equal height, and I think it will be a decent place that's protected from the weather. For the control box, I just made this little shelf that comes off the side of the truck here. And I haven't bolted it down yet, but once I connect everything, and I'm happy with where this should be, then I'll go ahead and bolt that down. Okay, so here's the mounting solution I came up with for the tablet that came with the CNC. This is just an old computer monitor I had that was doing nothing, and I went ahead, mounted the tablet on here, just on a piece of wood back here like this, very simple, and I took off one of the arms so that this is more stable and more solid feeling. So I can move this all around wherever I want, and I think it will be a good solution for mounting this. So this is where it's going to live, protected from the weather as much as I can. And this is where my electronics are going to live. And I'm also planning on protecting them afterwards, probably with just trash bags. Alright, let's go ahead and put that CNC machine together on top of that torsion box we built. Alright, as you can see, I got my ONEFINITY X35 Woodworker unboxed, and I got things kind of laid out. And I'm trying to give you guys a good view where you can see this. But I've also downloaded the instructions on how to assemble this thing, and we're going to go step by step. First step is to set our Y rails about where we want it on our tabletop here. And I'm going to reference everything off of this right side rail. This is about where I want it on the machine, and we'll try to make sure that everything else lines up. How about step 2? Slide the gantry assembly, green arrows, all the way to the front until it is tight. Those move pretty easily. Place the X rail on the Y rails. And let's make sure we align this up. Alright, that looks flush. This will be step 5, using the X-rail mounting bolts. Instructions say use 4 in the front, and then 4 on the back. There is no torque that I could find that's stated for this. Otherwise I'd put a torque wrench on it. Fasten the front of the wire rails to the table using only one wire rail mounting screw per side using the green arrow. And the instructions say use the inside inner. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That was step 7. Step 8, place the controller box over there, done already. Step 9, mount the display hardware, but I'm not going to be doing that. I've made other provisions for my display, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to skip step 9 and step 10, which is regarding that. I'm actually mounting this with the motors facing forward, and I'll take care of that later in the software afterwards, but we'll get there. Okay, now it's time to wire up the machine, step 11. I'm going to go through part of this, but it's not going to work because I already know I have one missing cable that connects my display to my control unit. So I'm not going to be able to follow the instructions on this completely. Basically, you hook up all the wires, then you turn the machine on, and you use the jogging function to run the gantry back and forward so that you can put all the bolts in place. This is not going to work for me, but we'll follow the instructions as much as we can. We'll get to the point where we can't do it, and then we'll go ahead and move the X rail manually back and forth so we can set all the screws in place. Alright, here we are at the back of the controller. I've already plugged the cables in. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is step 11. M1 into M1, M2 into M2, M3 into M3, M0 or MO into MO over here, and the probe right here on the end. Now what's a little bit different about mine is that I bought the extra cables to get some extra room connecting to M1 and M2. This gives me about another, I don't know, 2 feet. And I did that knowing that I was going to be mounting ONEFINITY backwards from what most people mount it, because I didn't want this cable in the back here interfering in the way, and I wanted to be able to service those motors a lot more easily. And I could do that from the front more easily, so that's why I did that. So anyway, it's the only difference in mine, and I also took the time to go ahead and label these M1 and M2, M1 and M2. Now there's a note over here on the instructions that say that the small M connectors that plug into the back of the controller can be difficult to plug in, and yes, mine were difficult to plug in. You may need to twist and wiggle them while pushing them in, and I definitely had to do that. One of these connectors here on the top I actually had to move sideways a little bit to get the locking tab to align and then go in. So alright, now we get to the point in the instructions where it says connect the touch display using one of the USB ports, which would be this one right here, and the HDMI port on the tablet, which would be over here. But I'm not able to do that because those cables did not come in the box, and I took my boxes all apart again and double checked and even triple checked looking for some extra cables and could not find them. It's time to connect the X rail by plugging the connector labeled MO into here, M3 into here. That's this cable right here. So I got both ends plugged in already. Plug connector labeled X into the side of the X rail. This one here, X, and this one Z. So I've already labeled these. X will go in here. And Z, you can't see it very good, but I labeled it right here. Since I'm not going to be doing this, I'm going to be disconnecting this right now. We're also going to be connecting Y2 into Y2, and this will be the left rail. And then this other one, Y1. gets connected into the Y1 rail, which is the right side, just like that. Now I'm going to be disconnecting these because I'm going to be moving the gantry back and forth. So according to the instructions, I'm supposed to be powering this thing up right now and moving the X-axis all the way to the back, and then put in 2 screws, move it back up, put in some more screws, move it back again, and put in some more screws. So that's what we're going to do. It's just that we have to do it manually because I can't power this thing up now in accordance with the instructions. So this is moving pretty easily. It's just moderate. I just want to make sure I get all the way back. Bump it. Give this thing a few taps here and there, let it settle, and drill a hole. That thing settle where it wants. So I'm not really putting these screws in really tight at this point. It's just making contact, and then maybe a 1/16 of a turn, maybe less than that. Let's move it back forward all the way. Give it a few little love taps, let it settle where it wants. Is all this back and forth necessary? No, it's not strictly necessary. It's just me being weird. All right, we're jumping ahead to step number 20 in the PDF here, and using the Z slider mounting bolts. And it looks like a set screw. This is a number 3mm set screw is what I'm going to be using for this. So there's a note in the instructions that says in the event that you have the stiffy attached, and we do on this particular one, ensure you do not use the holes in the stiffy block to attach the Z slider. So these holes right here are not going to be used to attach the Z slider. Most people that I've seen installing this use the middle holes, and I think I might just do that as well. Alright, step number 21. We are going to see if this Z slider is relatively square to the top of the table. So I'm just going to grab a square here. And it looks like it's a little bit off. Looks like the bottom can tilt out this way a little bit. So let me loosen the bolts and see if I can adjust that and see how it goes. It's close. It's really close. I just want to get it as close as I can get it. The better I can do here, when I tram it, the better it'll be. So let me see if I can get this just a little bit pushed out this way. Alright, time to mount our router and hook up the motor. So we need to drive this all the way down, or almost all the way down, before the router will go in there. Instructions say at least 1/4 inch from the bottom. That's good. So I'm going to go ahead and, using a 4mm hex wrench, I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 bolts off the top. This little plastic cover right here. And just set these on the side for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and mount the router in here. Instructions say to bring it all the way down, and using this 4mm set screw wrench, tighten it up. Now I want to bring it all the way down to the machined part. So when they say all the way down, they mean to this ridge, which cocks the thing over. Nope, I'm just going to bring it down to the machined part and not let it hit the ridge, because when it hits the ridge, it cocks the router over to one angle. I brought it down until I can just see the machined portion, this part up here, and now I'm locking it into place. So on this router, your on-off switch is supposed to be on the right-hand side, and your cord is supposed to be on the left-hand side. That's a nice little cover for cable management. I kind of like that. I'll leave a little more room for the cable. Want to make sure it can go all the way down. I think that's sufficient right there. Although I do believe that there may be a 3D printer attachment for this. In the future I might be interested in picking up a laser for it. But let's play with this for a few months and see how it goes. Alright, not too tight on there. Make sure these got good room. Let's go ahead and hook up the Z motor. I don't like this too much. I don't think this is quite right. Maybe I'll loosen this up and bring it in a little bit. I think we'll just go with that for now. What I don't want is any stress on the wires where it goes right into the motor right here. Alright, it's been about 10 days since I last videoed this. In the meantime, I went ahead and took this off of my toolbox for power distribution, and did some cable management over here on the sides. And finished hooking up the tablet. I also made a little tramming tool. I'll show you how I did this afterwards, but it's just a pencil stuck into a piece of wood. It's not too bad all the way around, a little low spot right here, but in general I think that's going to be close enough. So this is my tramming tool. It's about a foot long. I just took it over to the drill press and drilled a couple 1/4-inch holes in it, and I grabbed a 1/4 20 by 1.5 bolt, and I cut the head off and then chamfered the edges so that it could go up into the collet, and I just was using this for the tramming. It seemed to work okay. Alright, let's do our first power up, see how it goes. I don't know if a light is supposed to come on with this thing or not. No signal. Okay, let's double check the plugs, make sure everything's plugged in. Alright, as you saw earlier, I hit the power button and nothing happened, and the tablet said that there was no signal being received, and the little light, the LED light around the switch would not illuminate. So I thought, okay, I was just going to take this apart and look for a loose wire. And then I saw this sticker over here. Now this unit happened to be set up for 230 volts, and I have a 115 volt system here. And then I also saw inside here yellow sticker that says AC input voltage can be selected by switch, and check input voltage, avoiding damage before powering on. Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little red switch inside here, and it was set to 230 volts. So you can use this switch to select 115. So I'm just going to stick my probe in here and move that over, select 115. And hopefully this solves the problem. It was just set up for 230 volts, and I don't have a 230 volt system. So this power unit back here is held on by 4 2.5 millimeter bolts that go into the bottom here. By the way, just in case you're wondering, this is unplugged. So this is a 2.5 millimeter set screw wrench for these little tiny bolts here. Make sure that's snug and all the wires are snug. Ground is good. Okay. Now let's very carefully plug this in, making sure we don't short anything out here, because that would be a very unhappy situation. Not touching anything it shouldn't. Okay. Plugged in. Now let's go ahead and turn this on. Okay, the LED comes on and the cooling fan is running. So if you get a unit, it won't power up and your tablet is saying that it's not receiving a signal, you might want to check this sticker over here to see if it's set up for 115 or 230. Mine was set up for 230. That's the wrong system. I've got a 115 system. Take out the power unit down here and set the switch to 110. Excuse me, to 115. So I'm going to go ahead and scratch this off and set it for 115. Okay. Shut this thing down. Unplug it. Okay, now let's put this back together. Okay, so this slides in here on these rails. Now that we have the back of the unit slid in, let's go ahead and put some screws in it. I really do like the way this box is made, put together. It is made to be disassembled and reassembled many times. It's quite stout. The only unfortunate thing was that my switch was set incorrectly inside here, making me scratch my head for a while. What's wrong with my new CNC? Oh no! Oh no, Mr. Bell! Gosh, I'm dating myself with the Mr. Bell reference there. Okay, let's put this top on. The connectors for the emergency shutoff go right down here. So you have to partially slide this thing on. And you have to lift it up a bit. Put the ground on. Using a 5/16 wrench to tighten this ground strap. Put those connectors back on. Slide it the rest of the way down. Okay. Connector on the push button switch only goes on one way. Make sure that's on nicely. Make sure nothing is grounding or loose down here. Before I put this top on, I'm going to put the side ones on. There's two on the side. There's two bolts on the side, one here and one there, and that holds the circuit board in place so that it doesn't move, just locks it in place. I want to do this first so that I can see that it actually is where it's supposed to be, doing what it's supposed to do. Indeed, that one's good. This is also, what was this? This was a 3. This is a 3 millimeter. and one on the other side. So this is my first time taking this box apart. It's pretty easy. There's not too much to it. Alright, now I'll put this switch on, switch plate. 4 bolts hold that on. Well, this has been an adventure to take this box apart. I thought I was going to have to return it. And who knows, I may still have to, but at least it's powering up now, so we'll see how it functions. Okay, that sounds good. Got everything snug. Let's go ahead and put this back together and we'll see what happens. Alright, now that we have this switched to the correct voltage, let's go ahead and boot this up. Just turn the power on. Yay, hallelujah, it's booting. Wow, I feel like I went on an African safari to take this apart and put it back together. Quite an adventure. Alright, now that this thing is booted up, it's asking me if I want to home the machine. And I do not want to home the machine at this time. What I want to do is I want to reverse motors number 1 and 2. So I went to ONEFINITY's website and I watched one of their videos a while back. And I believe it was motor 1 and motor 2, that's Y1 and Y2. We want to go there and we want to reverse. We want to click this on motion, we want to click this little box right here. That looks like it's clicked. And then we're going to save. And then we're going to go to motor 2. Motion reverse, click that little box. Save. Alright, I'm not familiar with this thing yet, so I just went ahead and shut it down. And then I'll turn it back on so that the automatic homing feature comes up now that I've reversed the motors. I reversed the motors because I wanted them facing me and I wanted that extra cable that dangles in the front on the other side where I didn't have to worry about it, so it's protected over there. So let's go ahead and start this thing up. Okay, as it's booting up, I want to home this thing, and I expect to see the Z-axis move the router all the way up and bump, and then I expect to see the X-axis move all the way to the left and bump stop, and then for the Y-axis I expect it to move all the way forward and bump stop, and then if everything is good I should have green all over the screen and I should have zeros. Okay, here we go, starting up, loading up. Home machine. Home machine. Yes, we want to home the machine. Okay, the Z is moving up. Stopping. Moving all the way to the left on the X-axis. So far, so good. So I don't know if you can see this here now, but there we go. The Z turned green. Oh, something has happened. Nope, this failed. This failed because gantry failed to move forward on the Y-axis. So, we're going to start this up again and do it again. Let's go ahead and shut down. Let's go ahead and shut down. Adventures in CNC land. why it did that. Make sure all those cables are tight. Okay, the Z moved up. The X is moving over. Y is moving all the way up this time. All right, we got position all zeros, we got all green. So I think that's all I'm going to do for today. I'm going to have to go ahead and read up on this. I think that if I press this button right here, it would home. Nope, sorry, this one right here. If I press this one right here on the top right hand corner, it would home and do X, Y, and Z all over again. I know it's at that position right now, but I'm just going to press the button and see. Okay, it did it. It didn't move very much because it was already in the position, but that is the correct toggle, the top right hand home position, to go ahead and set home for X, Y, and Z all at the same time. So that'll end this section of the video. The next one will be the spoil board. I'm going to go ahead and put one on here, get it all secured, and level it off, and that will be portion number 2 of this video. So, aloha, ahuyo.